Let tyrants fear. I have always so behaved myself that, under God, I have placed my chiefest strength and safeguard in the loyal hearts and good will of my subjects. And therefore I am come amongst you, as you see, at this time, not for my recreation and disport, but being resolved, in the midst and heat of battle, to live and die amongst you all, to lay down for my God, and for my kingdom, and for my people, my blood, even in the dust. I know I have a body of a weak and feeble woman, but I have the heart and stomach of a king, and a king of England too.
We are Elizabeth, first Queen of the Britons to bear that name, Queen of England, Ireland, France, Wales, and the Virginias, which we will be talking to you about this day. We were born September 7th, 1533 in Greenwich, England, to King Henry VIII and Lady Anne Boleyn. We ruled from 1558 to 1603, and when we inherited England from our sister Mary I, otherwise known as Bloody Mary, England was impoverished and in disarray. By the end of our reign, it was known as the Golden Age, and we expanded the world, defeated major powers, and art was our highlight. Therefore today we will be speaking to you of ourselves and who we were, so you may understand the beginning of America. Here we are when we were 17 years old. This was painted in 1546 by William Scrots, and this was painted for my half-brother, who was King Edward VI. He was the last of us three children. First was Mary Tudor, then myself, and then my brother Edward. But because he was a male heir to the throne, he became king first when my father, King Henry VIII, died. He only ruled for a few years and died in his teenage years. After him became my sister, Queen Mary I, which I referred to earlier as Bloody Mary. That is where that name comes from. The reason is because she caused a lot of strife between Catholics and Protestants, which was a very big deal during our day in England. When she died, only after 6 years of her reign, we ascended the throne at 25. During the time that we were waiting to become queen, it was a very perilous time. We were locked in the Tower of London and our life was threatened many times. I almost lost my head had it not been for my wits in saving my own life, and for friends of myself as well. So when we finally inherited the crown in 1553, we decided that religion should not be a master plan in our country. Instead, I preferred not to make windows into men's souls and allow people to practice whatever they wanted. You must understand that religion and politics were very much intertwined at this time, hence why England and Spain were not friends. England, when we became queen, became Protestant. Spain was Catholic, and therefore our viewpoints on the world did not agree, and therefore that led to the Spanish Armada and the war between England and Spain.
There are other laws and accomplishments that we established during our golden reign. The new scientific thinking of the Renaissance was encouraged, and important men such as Sir Francis Bacon and Sir John Dee emerged during our era. Also, I surrounded myself with highly intelligent and loyal advisers, such as Sir William Cecil, Sir Francis Walsingham, who happened to be the father of codes used for spying, and Sir Robert Cecil, who gave us all sound political advice. Also, I established the Poor Laws, which achieved a new framework of support for the needy and those who needed our care. I was also able to choose excellent advisers and statesmen, but was not to be dominated by them. I was firmly in control of all major policies, and my country prospered as a result. And finally, I was able to achieve recognition for England as a leading power in Europe, despite the fact that we were a woman and never married. During our reign, England expanded trade overseas and the merchant community grew. Private shipbuilding boomed and navigational advances made long sea voyages safer. England's chief commodity was woolen cloth, traded mostly at the Dutch port of Antwerp for finished goods and such luxuries as French wines. Cloth exports grew over the course of the reign, but suffered from competition from finer Spanish products, and from Antwerp's decline after its harbour silted up and became impassable in the mid-1560s. Therefore, we founded the Royal Exchange to help merchants find secure markets for their goods. Such an endeavour brought other countries throughout Europe and Asia to bring money into the pockets of the English people, and into ours. It is because of the arts and William Shakespeare that my era has often been referred to as the Golden Age. What better than words and poetry and plays upon the stage to inspire our people? Our reign witnessed widespread increase in literacy, because I believed in establishing schools for all sorts of middle-class children and families, and also great achievements in the arts. Great poets and playwrights emerged during our era, such as William Shakespeare, Edmund Spenser, Christopher Marlowe, and even Sir Walter Raleigh.
Another question you may have that is not covered in your textbooks is probably, why did people look like this? Why did people choose to shape themselves something like an upside-down ice cream cone? Therefore, we are here to tell you why. You first must remember that people in this time were born in the Renaissance. The Renaissance was the birth of new ideas, because we had just come from the Dark Ages, and so now people were starting to explore the world. They were starting to explore art and music and beautiful things about the world, and so they wanted to adorn themselves to reflect those ideas. Now, you must remember that a person's station, that is lower class, middle class, upper class, were reflected in how they dressed. Therefore, if you were of the upper class, you literally wore your jewels on your clothes. And your servants took off those jewels and sewed them onto another dress for another day. Usually people had 2 or 3 or 4 gowns that were heavily jeweled, and so they were very heavy. So it was not uncommon to see a lady walking with assistants. So therefore, this shape was meant to look like we were above the earth, we could defy gravity, but at the same time, we were covered in jewels to show our position and how we should be respected. Now, you probably see pictures of peasants and middle-class people. Their clothes look a little bit more worn. That is because when the upper-class people were done wearing something, they would pass it down to someone who is their servant or so forth, and it was considered a gift to give them something of old so that they would have something new. So it was not uncommon to see peasants wearing clothes that were 50 or 60 years older because they had slowly been passed down. Also, another very interesting note, which you will learn later as you read higher works of fiction as you get older through the years, is when you would read about highwaymen, when people were robbed. It was not uncommon that when someone was robbed, because of all the jewels and things on their clothes, they literally took the clothes off their back. So these people were left with only their chemise and tights because all their clothes had all the jewels, so the thieves would take all their clothes. So therefore, you have now learned why people look the way that they do.